the reaction you perform every morning without knowing. Before you wake fully, chemistry has already decided how your day begins. Invisible reactions fire silently, shaping energy, focus, and even mood. You never notice them, yet they happen every single morning. To understand this hidden process, we need to start with something familiar. The simple act of waking up feels passive, almost automatic. But beneath that calm surface, your body becomes a controlled chemical storm. Every breath, every stretch, every blink triggers precise molecular exchanges. These reactions determine how alert you feel and how fast you adapt. Today, modern life depends on this chemistry more than ever before. Screens glow earlier, sleep shortens, and stress reshapes biological rhythms. The same ancient reactions now face unfamiliar conditions, and the consequences quietly compound. At first, the system seems flawless. Your body releases stored chemicals to raise temperature and sharpen awareness. Hormones shift, enzymes activate, and energy pathways unlock. This reaction chain evolved to prepare humans for survival. It once aligned perfectly with sunrise, movement, and natural danger. But something subtle has changed. The timing no longer matches the world we live in. Artificial light interrupts chemical signals meant for dawn. Caffeine replaces slower metabolic awakenings. Sleep debt alters reaction efficiency without immediate warning. The first beat of this story begins in your cells. As you wake, enzymes accelerate glucose conversion into usable energy. Mitochondria respond like tiny engines starting simultaneously. This process feels effortless because it usually is, but the second beat follows quickly. Stress hormones amplify the reaction, increasing speed and intensity. In small doses, this sharpens focus and reaction time. In excess, it destabilizes balance and drains reserves. The system was never designed for constant activation. Then comes the third beat. Your brain chemistry adjusts perception, memory access, and emotional tone. This determines whether the day feels manageable or overwhelming. The reaction finishes before you check your phone. You experience the result, not the chemistry itself. And that is where the story begins to turn. Because what happens next reveals a deeper problem. One that repeats every morning, unnoticed, and slowly reshapes how the body pays its chemical cost. The reaction does not stop once your eyes open. It continues, adapting to signals you barely register. Light, sound, temperature, and expectation all feed the system. Your chemistry listens before your mind does. At first, this adaptation feels helpful. The body increases cortisol to boost alertness and speed. Neurotransmitters adjust attention toward threats and priorities. Blood chemistry shifts to deliver oxygen more efficiently. Everything works together, fast and quietly. This is a continuation of an ancient design. A design built for short bursts of urgency, then rest would follow. However, modern mornings rarely allow that release. Instead of movement, there is stillness. Instead of sunlight, there is blue glow. Instead of silence, there is noise and information. The chemistry keeps accelerating, but nothing resolves. The reaction remains unfinished. Here is where tension begins to form, because chemical reactions always seek balance. If energy is released, it must be replenished. If stress is activated, it must be shut down. When that does not happen, the system compensates. It borrows from reserves meant for later. This borrowing feels invisible at first. You still function. You still move forward. But efficiency begins to slip. Another reaction joins the chain. Inflammatory signals rise slightly, then persist. Not enough to cause pain, just enough to create friction. Focus dulls. Memory feels slower. Motivation requires more effort than before. The chemistry is no longer optimizing. It is managing damage. This is where most people misread the signal. They assume the problem is motivation or discipline. They add stimulants to force energy upward. Caffeine pushes a reaction faster, not cleaner. Sugar delivers fuel without restoring balance. The system responds, but at a cost. Each shortcut leaves chemical residue behind. What nobody expects is how quickly this compounds. A single morning means nothing. Weeks create patterns. Months rewrite baselines. The reaction you perform every morning begins to change shape. It becomes louder, harsher, less precise. And the body adapts to dysfunction as if it were normal. That is the early conflict forming beneath routine. A quiet mismatch between ancient chemistry and modern rhythm. Still manageable, still subtle, but no longer harmless. Over time, the chemistry stops asking for permission. It shifts into survival mode without announcing the change. What once felt like a smooth transition becomes resistance. Waking up requires negotiation instead of momentum. The reaction now meets friction at every step. This is the core conflict. Your body still runs the same chemical program, but the environment keeps rewriting the inputs. Sleep arrives late. Stress arrives early. Recovery becomes compressed or skipped entirely. The chemistry adapts, but adaptation has limits. Inside the brain, signaling pathways lose precision. Neurotransmitters linger longer than intended. Signals overlap instead of passing cleanly. This creates noise. Thoughts feel scattered. Focus fractures. Emotion reacts faster than logic. The reaction still works, but clarity fades. Meanwhile, energy chemistry follows a similar pattern. Mitochondria increase output to meet demand, but constant demand accelerates wear. Byproducts accumulate. Efficiency drops. The same reaction now produces less usable energy. Fatigue appears earlier. Recovery takes longer. The system compensates again. This compensation is not random. Hormonal feedback loops tighten control. Stress signals remain elevated to maintain performance. This keeps you functional, but at a cost. Muscle recovery slows. Immune responses weaken. Sleep depth decreases. The reaction begins to consume tomorrow's resources. Here is where tension peaks. Because the chemistry does not fail suddenly. It degrades quietly. Each morning reaction becomes slightly less effective. You adapt to the decline without noticing. Baseline becomes unfamiliar, then accepted. What once felt sharp now feels normal. The paradox is cruel. The harder you push, the worse the chemistry responds. More stimulation creates less output. More effort creates less clarity. The reaction becomes reactive instead of responsive. And yet, nothing visibly breaks. This is why the problem persists. There is no alarm, no single moment of collapse, only a slow reshaping of how the body spends energy. And the reaction you perform every morning becomes the engine of that imbalance. The system is now primed, not for growth, not for recovery, but for endurance under strain. And that leads directly to the final realization. The climax is not a crash. It is a realization. The reaction was never failing. It was obeying the rules it was given. Chemistry does not judge lifestyle or intention. It only responds to inputs, timing, and balance. When stress signals dominate mornings, chemistry adapts. When recovery is delayed, chemistry compensates. When stimulation replaces resolution, chemistry recalibrates. The system always finds a way to continue. But continuation is not the same as optimization. The reaction that once prepared you for survival now sustains imbalance, not because it is broken, because it is precise. It does exactly what modern life demands, and nothing more. This is the moment everything becomes clear. You are not tired because you lack discipline. You are not unfocused because something is wrong with you. You are experiencing the cost of a reaction repeated without closure, day after day, morning after morning. The resolution is not a hack. It is awareness. Chemistry improves when cycles complete. Stress must rise, then fall. Energy must release, then restore. Signals must start, then end. The body was built for a rhythm, not constant pressure. Modern relevance makes this unavoidable. Work, screens, and schedules are not disappearing. But chemistry still responds to light, movement, rest, and timing. Small shifts reshape the reaction. Earlier light exposure, gentle movement after waking, delayed stimulation. These are not trends. They are chemical instructions. The reaction you perform every morning will happen regardless. The only question is how cleanly it runs, whether it builds resilience or quietly drains it. Once you see the chemistry, you cannot unsee it. Every morning becomes a choice of inputs, a chance to work with the reaction instead of against it. And that understanding changes how the day begins. Subscribe to join the journey. The